Hi guys, it is April from Getting Hygge With It. Sorry if my throat is slightly scratchy. This is the first time I'm talking today, so that might explain some things. Today I am doing the mid-year freakout tag. Towards the end of this video, I'm also going to do the mid-year check-in tag, and that was created by Harriet Rosie and Dane Reeds, and that's a brand new tag. Now some of the questions in that tag overlap with the mid-year freakout tag, so I'm prioritizing the mid-year freakout tag because that's what I prepared for first, and it's a classic. But I will be answering the other questions as well. So if you're interested, let's get into it. So the first question in the mid-year freakout tag is best book you've read so far in 2018. And for me, this is Hum If You Don't Know the Words. This book will always have a little special place in my heart. I cannot believe that I don't own it on my shelves. I have already gifted this book to my mom because I loved it that much. This book is about two people living in South Africa during apartheid. One is a little girl named Robin. She is white and she has just recently lost her parents. They died and she has to go and stay with an aunt. We also follow Beauty, who is a black woman who has lost her daughter. Her daughter hasn't died, but her daughter has either run away or she's been kidnapped. She's not sure what's happened to her daughter, and she is trying to find her daughter. And these two storylines interweave, and I love Robin and Beauty. I love them so much. You're rooting for them the whole time. And I got chills reading this book, and this is definitely a book I would want to reread, 100%. Question number 2, best sequel you've read so far in 2018. Now, I don't read a lot of books that are like trilogies or series at all. So I still haven't finished this book, but the only one that I have partly read this year is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. I have been listening to Harry Potter on audio, so I have to wait for my library to send them to me, and there's always a huge wait list for all of them. So basically I'll read it in little snippets, but I guess that one I mostly just read standalones. Number 3, new release you haven't read yet but want to. And for me, this is The Burning Chambers by Kate Moss. This is a book that takes place in France. I think it's during the 1500s. So this is historical fiction, and we follow various people and various timelines. And apparently this is a book with, you know, secrets and mysterious books and mysterious hidden passageways, and it just sounds right up my alley. I am so excited to read this book. This will probably go down when it's starting to feel like fall because it just gives off all of the fall vibes. So very excited to read that one. Number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And for me, this is Riley Sager's The Last Time I Lied. I don't even really know what this book is about. All I know is it's Riley Sager, and he wrote Final Girls, which was my favorite thriller that I read last summer. And so I desperately want to get my hands on this summer. I think it's coming out in July, and I need it. I need it so badly. So fingers crossed I can get my hands on it. 5, biggest disappointment. You guys know how much I love Josh Malerman. I adore Bird Box. Bird Box is my favorite horror book of all time. So when I found out that he was coming out with Unbury Carol, I was just floored. It was my most anticipated release, I would say, for 2018, and it just was not for me. This was really a Western. This wasn't a horror book at all, and it just was a big disappointment. I think it was probably the marketing that that did it, because if they had marketed it as a Western, I would have gone into it a bit differently. So I don't know, that just really did disappoint me though. I wanted to love it so much. Number 6, biggest surprise. And for me, this was Unraveling Oliver. I had never read Liz Nugent before. I've got another one of her books on my shelves now. And I didn't know what to think of this book. I knew that this followed a man who was brought to basically put his wife in a coma. The whole book starts out with his wife is in a coma, and you are going back in time and in the present, and you're meeting all sorts of people who know Oliver. And you learn about this man from all of these different perspectives, and it was so fascinating. This was a character study, but also a thriller, and I think those two things combined can be really, really good when they're well written, and to me, I adored this. So it was a little bit slow at times. This wasn't crazy fast paced, but just learning about Oliver was like, ugh, I don't know, he just creeped me out. Number 7, favorite new author, debut or new to you? And for me, this is Maggie O'Farrell. Right before I started filming this, I finished reading I Am by Maggie O'Farrell. This is going in my top 10 of 2018. Like, I would be so surprised if this wasn't in there, because this is kind of a memoir, autobiography of her 17 brushes with death. And some of these things are horrifying. The first chapter, I won't go too much into it, but the first chapter is an experience that she had with a man when she was alone out walking in kind of a isolated area in nature, and she meets a man who she has already seen on the path, and he's somehow gone up the way and he's waiting for her. Petrifying, like I'll Be Gone in the Dark vibes for that chapter. Really petrifying. There are bits in here about her experiences as a child and her near-death experiences there. There's a miscarriage chapter in here that I'm going to talk about a little later. I just was blown away. This woman can write, and this woman has lived such a huge life. So yeah, Maggie O'Farrell. She has mostly written fiction, and I think this was her first nonfiction. So I am going to read her fiction now because I just love her. I actually wrote her because I love her so much. Number 8. Newest fictional crush. Okay, I know most people struggle with this, and I feel like I kind of struggled with it too, because I realized that the men in a lot of the books I read aren't always put in the most wonderful light. Not always, but so I have a fictional crush for sure though, and it is in The Good Daughter. We follow 2 sisters and a father in The Good Daughter. And one of the sisters' name is Charlie, and her husband Ben, I would say, is my latest fictional crush. He is just a good guy. Charlie's husband and her are estranged, and you're just rooting for Ben the whole time, and he's so patient and he's so understanding, it's amazing that a thriller can make you care so much about characters, but Karen Slaughter does that with her thrillers. They're always longer. Like, Karen Slaughter's books are around 500 pages or more. But they're worth it because you care about the characters, and because they're going through so many scary things, you care even more. So I don't mind that they're long. I don't mind because characters like Ben exist because of it. Number 9, newest favorite character. And for me, I couldn't choose between these 2 characters. I have to say Grace and Tilly in The Trouble with Goats and Sheep by Joanna Cannon. I recently read this and I just fell in love. This is such a sweet growing up story with a little mystery in the mix. So we follow Grace and Tilly in the 70s. Their neighbor has gone missing and they decide that they're going to find their neighbor, and while they're at it, they're also going to find God in the neighborhood. And these kids like brought me back to being a kid. I didn't even grow up in the 70s, but I felt like I did. Just were able to encapsulate what childhood is like. And I loved these little girls trying to find some light in a very horrible situation with people who are incredibly prejudiced around them, and I loved it. I loved it, and I loved those girls. Okay, number 10, a book that made you cry. And for me, this was Memoirs of a Geisha. I cried at the end like a little baby because it just moved me so much. This is about a little girl who lives in Japan, and she is taken from her home. Her parents sell her essentially to learn to become a geisha. And it is about the experience of training for it and then becoming a geisha and what that feels like, and not being able to own your own destiny and your own heart. And it kind of tears you apart inside, but this book is also so much about resilience to me. I really loved it. Okay, number 11, a book that made you happy. The Trouble with Goats and Sheep. I've already talked about that, so you don't need to learn any more about that. Number 12, a favorite book to film adaptation you saw this year. Now, I actually have a whole list of books that I need to read because I want to watch the films that are either already out or are coming out, and let me know if you want a video on that, because I think that would be a fun little video to do. So this book actually has already come out, but the adaptation is coming out very soon in July, and that is Sharp Objects, and I just know I'm gonna love it. It's with Amy Adams. I think that was perfect. I feel like it was cast so perfectly. So I'm already saying that I'm gonna love it because I'm pretty damn sure that I am going to love it. Number 13, favorite review you've written this year. Oh, booktube version, favorite video you've done so far this year. And I think it's my hygge morning routine. I do hygge-like videos every once in a while, and they're a challenge for me, and they're a little bit different, and I really enjoy my morning routine. I'm actually breaking my morning routine right now, and I have to get into it a little bit more. But yeah, I would say that's it. It's just good to have coziness in your life, no matter what time it is. Even at work, I will infuse a little coziness. I'll either get like a cup of tea, or I'll listen to soundtracks, and I have a window, and I look out onto greenery, which is amazing. I'm so lucky, but it just is so important. So yeah, I would say my hygge morning routine, and I'll link that somewhere, you know the drill. Number 14, most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. Now, I received this, and it is Tangerine. My goodness, this is the most beautiful book. I love black and white anything. It's honestly, it's hilarious. Between me and my husband, Barry loves very, very colorful art, and I like more Caravaggio art, like very dark art where no one seems truly happy. And the only thing that we can agree on is black and white photography. So I think our whole home will end up being black and white photography, because I can't do the big splashes of color in my home. So that's why I think this book has like just called out to me in a way that no other book has. I just think it's stunning. I really do. And the contents inside are also incredible. So if you haven't read Tangerine, oh yeah, I would totally do that. Number 15, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Oh, this book has been on my shelves forever, and I have been talking about reading it forever. Both of these books are like that, actually. First up is Snowflower and the Secret Fan by Lisa C. I have pretty much all of Lisa C's books on my shelves. I've read none of them. How has that happened? I don't even know how that's happened. Yeah. So, I intend to read this for sure. This is about two women who are in unhappy marriages in China, and they write to each other on these fans to communicate and to have some meaning in their lives, and they talk about the experiences that they're having. And I'm so excited. It takes place in 19th century China, so that's happening. I also really want to read My Cousin Rachel. This is on my summer TBR, so I'm hoping to read this really soon. And this is about a man who is taken in by his cousin, and his cousin decides to go on this trip, and he meets a woman there named Rachel. He dies on the trip, and Rachel comes to live at his estate where this cousin lives as well, and we're trying to find out, is Rachel involved in the cousin's death? And so I am super eager to read that. So those are definitely going down. Okay, so that was the mid-year freakout tag. Now I'm going to do the mid-year check-in tag. I don't have all of the questions in front of me, and I think one of the questions, if I'm not mistaken, was, what is your most read author this year? And I went through my list of books, and it seems to be Amy Tan, which is strange because I'd never read Amy Tan before this year. I read The Joy Luck Club and The Bone Setter's Daughter by Amy Tan. I enjoyed them both. I definitely enjoyed The Joy Luck Club more. And what Amy Tan does so expertly, she's amazing, is she studies usually mothers and daughters and their relationships together in America. So she studies mothers who lived in China and moved their families to America, and these daughters who have always lived in America. And it's about the challenge between these two worlds, essentially, and these two cultures that are slightly clashing. There's a lot of misunderstanding, and it's so funny because she always starts out her books from the daughter's perspective, and you're reading about these mothers who are annoying them, and because they're annoying them, they're annoying you, and you're genuinely like, oh my god, you're driving me crazy. And then you get the flip side, and you read the mother's perspectives about their lives. And their lives in China, their lives moving to America. And you feel like the biggest jerk because you fall so in love with these characters, and you feel like you had already betrayed them earlier. And it really is about misunderstanding. I just love Amy Tan. I'm so glad I have more of her on my shelf. So yeah. Another question is, how many books have you read so far in 2018? I have read 48 books. I think that's pretty good considering my Goodreads goal is always 52 books because there are 52 weeks in here, and I really feel happy when I've, at the end of the year, read like 90 books or 80 books or whatever. It just makes me feel accomplished. So yeah. What is the genre you've read the most in 2018? And I was actually surprised when I started calculating, and I think it is historical fiction. In some ways I'm surprised. You all know how much I adore historical fiction. However, I had just thought that I was reading a lot more thrillers and horror. But I think that's just lately. So I think overall I have mostly read historical fiction, and that makes me happy because I just love it. What is your favorite 2018 release that you have read? I think this is going to be The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. I'm not even going to talk about it here because I really do talk about it so much. If you're into horror and you haven't read this because I forced you to, ooh, this doesn't say much about me, but it's so good. It's so good. So creepy. It's my second favorite horror book. Bird Box is always number one. The next question is, what is your next big priority for reading? And I think for me, it's going to be prioritizing my genre TBRs. So I have been doing some videos like the horror books that I would like to read before the end of 2018. Thriller books that I'd like to read and historical fiction books I'd like to read before 2018 is up. And so I really want to prioritize those books. And then the last question is, what is the bookish highlight that you've had so far in 2018? And there wasn't a moment of me reading outside or anything like that, but 2 days ago, I was reading I Am by Maggie O'Farrell. I'm listening to the audiobook. I've got the actual copy itself as well, but I heard really good things about the audio, so I decided to read it that way. And there's a chapter in here called Baby and Bloodstream, and it is about a missed miscarriage. And if you're curious about what it feels like to have a missed miscarriage, and not physically, but emotionally, the thoughts that run through your brain, I mean, go and read I Am, and read that chapter, because I had no idea that chapter, I knew that chapter was going to be about miscarriage, but I didn't know it was going to be about a missed miscarriage. And missed miscarriages are so weird because everything seems fine. My baby had died 3 weeks before I found out that the baby had died, because you still have all the symptoms. And so it is such a shock when you go into the office and they say, you know, when you're going for your ultrasound and they say your baby is no longer alive. And Maggie O'Farrell got everything that I thought to such a point that I was just like, yes, I just kept saying, yes, exactly. And there's something so good about reading a book that affirms the feelings that you've had with strange things that have happened to you. You know, breakups happen to everyone, usually almost everyone. Falling in love happens to most people. So I think there are a lot of things in life that are kind of universal. But when you can find something that you've felt that's been very strange and that you've experienced that's been very strange and not a lot of people have had it, and then someone has had it and knows you, it just, oh my God, it meant so much. I can't even tell you. So that was my highlight because I was seen and I was understood, and that means the world. And I did write to Maggie O'Farrell after reading that because I just appreciated it so much. So, okay, those are my answers to the 2 tags, the mid-year freakout tag and the mid-year check-in tag. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I don't even know who to tag for this because I feel like a lot of people have done this, but I want to tag Julie from A Girl in a Book because she just moved house, and I know that she's starting to think about what she wants to film. And if you were looking for an easy kind of video to film Julie, here it is. Enjoy, and I will talk to you guys later. Okay, bye.